Yeah.
Welcome. Hey, everybody. John Rankin here, doing an interview today with Mr. Collagen, John Pennington, who is a contestant on Play to Win with me. I've been following his journey and actually had him in my travel group not too long ago because he had a crazy story from Canada. John, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing really, really good. Interestingly enough, there was an article published about 2 weeks ago about that adventure in the Post, and then again 3 or 4 days ago in a different publication. And then I was called by a reporter yesterday. Looked up my number, I guess, and gave me a call and wanted to hear my side of the story.
Right. So the last time I talked to you, they were looking at sometime in September, October timeframe. You had to come back to go to court. Is that still happening, or what ended up happening with that?
Yeah. So as the published article, which is mostly unfactual, I'm dubbed the Alaskan Romeo. Okay. And as most of it was unfactual, I did pick up from it that I have a November court date in Canada. I was given an $870 fine the night the police showed up. And then the next day, which the most recent article is hilarious. It's almost like, I had no plans to ever leave Canada, and I was just going to, make my merry way around. And the police caught up with me the next day. It was more like I checked out of my hotel. I went right up the street to lunch. And when I came out of lunch, the same police department had surrounded my vehicle. And that's when they arrested me. So
that's so crazy. So once we get done with the interview, post those links in here, and I'll actually drop them at the top of the video so that people can read about the Alaskan Romeo. That's hilarious. So,
okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, like your background. Where did you come from? Where do you live now? I know you're single with no kids, but just kind of like educate my crowd to who you are and a little bit about where you came from, because I know you're a Midwesterner who migrated to the fake South. So tell us a little bit about that and some of those kind of details.
Yeah, it's so funny to me that we call South Florida or Florida the South, right? Because you have like Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and people in all of those states talk like they're from the South. And then you talk to someone from Florida and you're like, wait, are you from New York, Boston, Chicago, or the Midwest, right? It's so funny.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I want to first thank you so much, John. I have a lot of fun on these videos with you. So I appreciate you taking a few moments and inviting me to be a part of this. I'm very honored. Myself, I grew up not far from here. So I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio today. I actually just drove right back up here today. I spent the morning down at my farm in Kentucky where I was born and raised. So I was down there. It's a super small, tiny town called Dry Ridge.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's about 35 minutes south of Cincinnati, about an hour north of Lexington.
Okay. Yeah. So you're about 3.5 hours from me then.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Right on. So yeah, born and raised there in a farming community. My dad was one of 7, so I've got a ton of aunts and uncles and cousins, and we all basically farmed. It seemed to me like my childhood was just full of like a lot of laughter, a lot of great memories, a lot of hard work. I was raising tobacco crops, hay and cattle and corn as a kid. Every winter, my dad and I would cut firewood, and we would sell and deliver firewood in addition to his full-time job. And the interesting aspect of my background as it relates to network marketing is I was born in 1980, and that's the same time, 79, 80, that my parents got involved in network marketing. And so believe it or not, I went to my first network marketing conference when I was 3 days old. I don't remember much from it. I didn't take a whole lot of notes, but that's how serious and committed my parents were to the dream of network marketing and a better life and a better future. Like they were not going to miss the conference. And so my mom gave birth 3 days later. I was toted away to the conference. So I kind of grew up with that in my background. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Huh. Now, so that's real interesting to me because I personally, because I've not been involved in the industry as long as you have, or as long as even some of the other contestants on the show. I don't know of too many like second and third generation network marketers. Is that a thing?
Yeah, it actually is. And and so Eric Worre has a company called Network Marketing Pro, and he's the reason that I got back into network marketing in 2014 after being out for a couple years. But what I started learning through him was I would see interviews that he would do with people in all different kinds of companies that were like second generation in network marketing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. It wasn't just me. But my tail end of my career in network marketing around 2011, 2012, right before I got out with a like broken heart, dreams were crushed. I had so my parents were involved with the company from 1980 to 1990, somewhere around there. They gave up, they quit. I don't know. We've never had that conversation even to today. And from 1990 to 2000, I really didn't know anything about network marketing. I was using some of the products, but I had no idea that they came from a network marketing business or direct sales type of business. But my parents were still buying those products. So I was still taking the vitamins. We were still using the laundry detergent, all that type of stuff from my age of like 11 to 19, 20 years old. But through those years, I knew nothing about network marketing, and I'm helping my dad in firewood, and I'm selling tobacco, and growing up on a farm, and then getting a job and getting into the like workaday world as I'm in college, my freshman and sophomore year in college. And then that's when like I was walking to work one morning downtown Cincinnati. So I parked at the stadium, and then you walk blocks to your office. And I was standing at a street corner with like 30 other people waiting to cross the street. And the guy that was like right behind me and to my side just struck up a conversation with me. And it's because he was in network marketing. Turns out, same company my parents had been involved in for 10 years. Wow. And he cold contacts me or prospects me there as we're walking up the street to our offices, and calls me up like 2-3 weeks later, something like that, schedules a one-on-one, comes to my house, drives from Cincinnati down to the small town I lived in, but drove through a snowstorm. I mean, he was late to our one-on-one appointment in my basement, which is where I was living in my parents' house at 20 years old. He was late because he drove like 2.5 hours, a 1-hour drive, because the snow was so deep, roads hadn't been plowed or anything like that. Sat down and talked with me for about 45 minutes, and then invited me to a hotel meeting, either like, next week or the week after. And what happened in the back of my mind? Yeah, he stirred the dream with me, which I had never really thought about, as I'm like $40,000 in debt and working 70 hours a week and going to college full time. But I'm like, why would this guy, he didn't ask me for any money. He didn't ask me to sign up today. Why would he drive 2.5 hours through a snowstorm to a small town in Kentucky to share with me a 45-minute flip chart presentation, to just invite me to a hotel meeting, and leave? I'm like, there's really got to be something to this, right? If he's going to drive that distance to invite me to this thing. And, I didn't know anything about posture or the fact that the meeting was actually every week or anything like that. And he invited me to a meeting, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. So what'd you go to school for? Did you finish out college? Did you get your degree? I mean, what was all that like?
Yeah. So growing up in a small town, you weren't told this, but we kind of all assumed it, right? Smart kids go to college. The dumb kids just go get a job, right? And there was a brand new manufacturing facility, Dana Corporation, to build like axles and stuff like that. Had just been built like the year before. And so a lot of kids were coming out of our school. There was like 300 in my graduating class. I went to a big public school, but very small town. So it was everyone in the county going to the same school. And quite a few of the kids that came out got jobs at that new manufacturing plant because they could make like $13-14 an hour right out of high school. And it was just like, holy cow, you can make that kind of money at 18 years old, and it was just, so that was the path, right? You're either going to go get a job, you'll continue farming, because quite a few of the kids I went to school with were in farming families, or you went to college, you went to school. And so I wasn't a dumb kid, and I wasn't like just going to keep working, although I had been working now for a couple of years and always had the farm like on the side, because my dad worked for UPS for 35 years and always had the farm on the side, right? So it was just my mentality, like you do one thing for money, but you always have the farm bringing in more money on the side and on the weekends and through seasons and stuff like that. But no one, the really sad thing is that kids at 16, 17, 18 years old, no one really helps them to grasp and comprehend, like, hey, if you make this decision to go to higher education, you're going to spend probably 4 to 5, maybe 6 years there, 7, 8 if you're going to be a doctor or something, right? And it's going to cost you thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
With no promise, no guarantee. There's really, like, what they should explain is, like, if you go through this process, if you choose this path and go borrow this money, there's no promise that you're going to get a job. You're not entitled to anything when you come out of school. Like no one explains that, right? And there's reason and purpose to why that's not explained. But it was through that process that just by default, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to school, right? And so I went to a local university, not that far away. And my dad signed on the student loan with me. Thankfully, it was a pretty inexpensive university, like $2,000, maybe $1,500, $2,000, something like that per semester. So it wasn't outrageous at all. But a couple years later, when I decided to drop out of college, so I was introduced to network marketing. I was cold contacted, prospected in November, shown the business presentation right around Thanksgiving, came to a hotel meeting early December. School ended right around that time, right, for the semester. School gets back in around second week of January, something like that. By the third or fourth week of January, I am rocking this network marketing thing. I'm like the talk of everything in our local hotel meeting, which is like 200 people or something like that. And they're like, this 18-year-old kid, or I guess I was 20 at that time, this 20-year-old kid is on fire. And, just everybody he talks to comes to his house for the meeting. And so I'm like, this is way better than like my other options. And so I dropped out of college the next week.
Oh, wow.
And I was done with school at that point. Yeah, okay. It was like entrepreneur for life at that point.
So tell me about, being that your parents were in network marketing and then you got started up in your own network marketing business, you had your fallout, your first love broke your heart and you got bitter for a little bit and then you came back in. How long have you known Ray? How long have you been involved in Rank Makers and how did that happen?
Yeah. So, man, when I left network marketing, it was like the worst of bitter. PTSD, like you can't imagine, other than the military, right? So I'm respectful of like the legitimacy of what you guys have experienced. But man, when it comes to like the business world, it was just the culture, the environment that I was in that really left me negative. And it's so ironic because that was like the most positive environment supposedly that I could have been in for 12 years. So from the time that I was 20 years old, getting started in network marketing, to the age of 32 when I quit and I was like, I'm done.
How old are you?
I just turned 40 the other day.
Get out of here.
No. I use a lot of collagen.
I didn't think you were above 30.
I love it. That's why they call me Mr. Collagen.
Yeah. Give me a hit of that youth. I need that.
You look good, man. You look good.
Yeah. So how'd you find Ray? Go ahead. I was just going to.
Yeah. No. So here's the interesting thing. And I'll say this because there are a lot of people in the same boat, regardless of what company they're involved in. But there are some companies that have the hedges up, your blinders on, and it's there's no such thing as outside trainers. The name Tony Robbins is never even mentioned. I had no idea who that guy was. There's just, you're very sheltered in this environment.
Right.
And the only teaching, training, or education that you get is in that environment, because that's where a large portion of their income, their revenue, is generated. So they have two businesses in that aspect, whereas they've got the product side where the company is paying out the bonuses, and then they also develop what they call a tools side, tools and events. So they make money on all the conference tickets, all the CDs or MP3s that they sell, all that kind of stuff, right? And so that's the environment that I was in. That's the same environment that my parents came from, because it was the same company. That's the same environment that my sister, 4 years younger than me, was still in, okay? And today, here she is, still in that same environment. 20 years later, 20 years, my sister's been involved with that company. She got started when she was 15, and she's 35. Yeah. She probably makes, if I were just guessing, because I kind of know about her business a little bit, she probably makes between 150 and 200 bucks a month as a check after 20 years with that company. And she spends, because I can see all the products that she buys, she spends probably between $500 and $700 a month on products, goes to 6 conferences a year, 4 major conferences, then a men's leadership or a women's leadership for her, men's leadership for her husband, and a fall leadership. So 6 conferences, travel, hotel, conference tickets, spends $500 to $700 a month on products, and has a check of between 100 and probably 150, 250 bucks a month, right? But it's the culture, right? And that's what Ray talks about. And it's what I didn't understand. And so I get out at age 32, bitter, heartbroken, discouraged, because the people that I vowed my life to, the people that I called my best friends, the people that I defended as like, these are great people for over a decade, talked so bad about me after I quit, after I left. And the reason that I left the company, everybody always has their reasons, right? The reason that I left is because we were shown the night that I saw the presentation, for the decades since that company had been showing a business presentation since the 60s and 70s, same presentation my parents learned and shared with people, same presentation that they share today, is that in 2 to 5 years, you should be able to reach a level where you're making 150 to 250,000 plus a year. And here I am 12 years in, and I'm making $400 or $500 a month, and I'm sitting down sharing a business opportunity now with people still my age, right? But when I was early on and they were my age, they were naive college students, 20, 22-year-olds, right? Then we get to where me and my wife, we get married. We're married around 21, divorced, which I never expected, at 28. And now the people I'm sharing the business with are like 28 to 30. And now here we are at 30 and 32. And I'm sharing the business with like people that have worked for a decade. They have like professions. They actually make like 60 or 80 or $120,000 a year. And I'm over here making $400 or $500 a month in network marketing, sitting down, trying to show these sharp business type people a business plan where they can make a 6-figure income in 2 to 5 years. And the question inevitably is, wait, so when did you get started? So you've been doing this for 12 years and you still work a job. And so like, I don't understand how it works, right? And so for my own integrity, like congruency is huge. Like it's majorly important in your life, right? I could no longer sit down and share a business presentation where a person could retire from their job in 2 to 5 years when I wasn't even in the realm of it after 12 and had no idea when it would happen, right? It was like every year we would set the goal, okay, we're going to replace the income, and then didn't even come close, right? And so I get out of network marketing at 32 years old, now divorced for about 4 years, which completely heartbroke me as well. Thankfully, no kids involved. But I'm just like, man, like that's what I really hung my future on. Like I quit college. I've quit every job that I had because the mindset that was taught from stage through CD, through MP3 on voicemails, everything was, if it doesn't matter 5 years from now, it doesn't matter right now. And if your boss won't let you come to the company convention next weekend or next month, then hey, you were looking for a job when you found that one. All right, there are plenty more out there. And so here I am at 32 years old. I've had 28 jobs through my lifetime career. And it was because I was just in this vicious cycle, right? Of like quit because my dream is to make it in network marketing. And so I quit at 32 years old. I finally give in on that dream not coming to fruition. I quit, I give up on it. I continue pursuing the entrepreneur life. I'm in business for myself because I've just discovered like I'm not really that employable, right? So I've been in business for myself for a couple years. And it was like the only way to make it. And I was cleaning cars. I was detailing cars. And, in some realms, I make it sound fancier than it is. But really, I mean, I was just cleaning crap up in people's cars and bringing it back to them. They were mostly nicer cars, high-end cars, doctors' cars, lawyers, business owners, what have you. But I got really, really lonely. And there was no way I was going to go back to the days of when I was like 17 and 18, where we would go to the bar like 4 or 5 nights a week. I didn't really drink all that much, but I hung out with guys that really weren't going anywhere in life in a small town. And like I couldn't just like start hanging out with them because 12 years earlier, I left them all, moved away from the small town, moved up to the city, and like abandoned them as friends because none of them wanted to come along on the journey. Thank God they didn't. Who wants to endure 12 years of that misery, right? So thankfully they didn't. But I couldn't go back to that. So here I am as a solopreneur, bored out of my mind, dating, a girl for 2 or 3 years at a time type of situation because I'm no longer married. And I'm just like, man, I've got like no purpose in life. I'm in business for myself, so thankfully I don't have a boss. But I was so lonely and miserable. And I was so heartbroken that the people that I trusted and fought for over a decade had treated me so badly. And it's not just that they had treated me badly, it's that my sister and now new brother-in-law are still in that environment, and they're the ones having to hear the conversations about her older brother, right? Because I know what those conversations are like because I lived those conversations for 12 years as they would talk about other people that quit, right? People that we call great friends and stuff, right? And that was probably like one of the saddest parts about it, that my sister was so sold out to the leadership, to the Christian businessmen and women in her life. And yet I knew how they had treated other people that quit. And I just knew that that's how they were treating me in conversations when I wasn't around. And so that's why I was so discouraged, right? But after about 2 years, I had a friend who had been sidelined to me. I'd never met him in person from that company, who was like this rock star. He was shown on stage at like 21 years old. He was quitting college because he legitimately was making a 6-figure income in the business. And we had never met in person. We had never shaken hands or anything like that. But here we are now, 7-8 years later, something like that. And he's messaging me on Facebook and then calls me and he's like, hey, I want you to take a look at this opportunity. And I'm like, no, sorry, totally not interested. And I'd been out of the network marketing profession for about 2.5 years, something like that. And I had started going down the path of an app-based business. Turns out nothing ever came of it. Russell Brunson was working with what are now the founders of Prove It, and it was for a whole business that never even truly existed, a business called Rippling. And it was all app-based. And from the day that we launched with NDA, we would send out NDAs to people and stuff like that. We had over 1 million people join in 76 days around the world. It was bananas, right? And so like I finally find something to get fired up and excited about again. And I'm like yelling it from the rooftops, and I'm calling anybody and everybody I know. And I don't even realize that it's network marketing because I think it's all like this app-based, send the invite to someone, get them to sign the NDA, and then get them in the system, right? And I go to that company conference about 4 months into this deal, and it's hurrah from the stages, and this is where we're going. And I kid you not, after that conference, within 2 weeks, it was complete radio silence. Anybody that had anything posted on social media, they all removed it. Everything started disappearing. There were like network marketing legends that I saw on stage, and I'm like, I know that was for real. I know I was in Dallas, Texas with those people. And now everyone acts like nothing ever happened, like it didn't even exist. And it's because apparently they'd given the money to some developer that wasn't developing an app. And so there was no tangible business for us, right? And so I had, by this time, gotten that call about 4 months earlier from that guy that had been sidelined to me in the network marketing business years earlier. And I told him, like, hey, there's no way I can take a look at this because we've had 1 million people join in 76 days, and this is so exciting. Well, he's following up with me, right? Because the fortune's in the follow-up. So he's following up with me, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I went to this conference in Dallas. There were hundreds of people there. I saw people shout from the stage. I was there for 3 days. I witnessed it. And now everyone acts like nothing even happened, like it didn't even exist. And he's like, oh, man, you know, I feel bad for you. I've seen companies grow so fast that they implode. They don't have the infrastructure and so on and so forth, right? He's a master salesman. And so he ends up signing me up in the company. Over like the next month, he finally gets me to sign up. But I'm like, all right, I go away for the winter. I go to South Florida. I'm definitely not going to be building a business while I'm gone.
Right.
And so he signs me up like October, November, something like that. So this was 2013. And from that time, October, November 2013, it was a binary business. So he would put people under me, and then he would text me. He'd be like, hey, dude, I just signed somebody else up under you. I had no idea what that meant because it was so foreign to me whatsoever. I'm like, how in the world could you even do that? That doesn't even make sense. How could you be putting people on my team? I haven't talked to anybody about this. I've never even tried the products. I don't even know how this works, right? And so he keeps sending me those updates. He's like, oh, you could have made, this much, $450 this week because you got, this much volume under you. And I'm like, I still don't even understand how that could happen. And so it was Easter weekend. I'm with my girlfriend at the time, and he sends me the YouTube bootleg copy of Eric Worre's book that had just been out a year or so.
Right.
Called GoPro.
Oh,
no, it was a couple of years before that. So it was GoPro, 7 Steps to Becoming a Network Marketing Professional. I listened to that audiobook and my mind was blown, like absolutely blown, because someone for the very first time in my life shared with me a way that you could get started in a network marketing business with a plan, on purpose, like with a strategy to actually make money. And I was dumbfounded at like, oh my goodness, this is legitimate. Now, the thing about being in a cultured environment, a closed environment for 12 years in network marketing was, I'm like, but who is this guy? Like, if he wasn't in Amway, Mary Kay, or Avon, whatever he was in is probably out of business, right? Because that's all we brainwash people to think. Is like every other business out there is here today, gone tomorrow. It's a knockoff of what we're doing, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, so if he wasn't in one of those 3 companies, what was he doing, right? I had no idea that there were actually hundreds at that time, hundreds of other companies. And now today, thousands, tens of thousands of network marketing companies. But that's what got me. It was listening to his audiobook, listening to like his genuine voice, talk about like the hope of a better future and what network marketing could provide. And so that started me on the journey. I launched the business a few days later, and I kid you not. So this total life changer, right? The guy that had called me up, introduced me, signed me up, and then got me this audiobook and everything like that. When he got started, so it was a few months before he ever initially called me. When he got started, he went from 0 to like, he had been out of our existing business for a year or 2 as well. But he got in, knew what he was doing, took immediate action, and went from 0 to a 6-figure income in 7 weeks. And we got paid weekly, right? So it's over $2,000 a week. And I was like, holy cow. And so I just duplicated what he did everything that he explained, followed Eric Worre's game plan from Network Marketing Pro. And I went from 0, now that I'm actually going to do this, right? around Easter weekend, 2014, 11 weeks later to a six-figure income. And I'm like, dude, this is amazing. And I was working my guts out. And about 4 months later, I discovered some really amazingly phenomenal people through things like Periscope, Twitter, that whole internet world, like John Melton, Bob Heilig, Ray Higdon, and Grant Cardone. And so that's when I was introduced to those guys, and I started tuning into Ray and Grant Cardone on a daily basis, and it really changed my life.
Huh. So what made you apply for the show? I mean, you're already super successful, doing great. Why the show?
Yeah. So I watched season 1 because I had a great relationship with Ray and Jess, and I've been super supportive of like everything they've done for at least like the last 3 or 4 years, something like that. When he announced Rank Makers back in 2017, like I told people in my sphere of influence at that time, and my girlfriend at the time, I was like, man, if this guy's putting everything else on the back burner and saying this is going to be his project, Rank Makers, this Facebook group where he goes live every day, like I'll be the first to sign up, give me the lifetime access. Like I want in, right? And so I've been sold out to them since then because I realized like, hey, I can get all the information from this guy that became a top income earner in his company. And when season 1 of the show came out, man, I watched it every week. I would pull it, I plug my computer into my big screen TV in the living room. I would sit on the edge of my couch and I'm just like, man, this is awesome. And I was emotional and I loved it. And I was like, I can't imagine what those people are going through. And then when they announced season 2, I'm like, no way would I go on there. Like I saw the emotions of those people. I'm a pretty emotional character myself, and I would be a wreck. And I kid you not, it came down to the last day of like the extended submissions or whatever. And I just had it in my gut, apply for it. And I'm like, no, I don't even want to. And I was going to the gym, 9 o'clock at night, whatever. And by 11 o'clock, I found a little place that I could lock myself away at Anytime Fitness in the tanning room. And I set up my tripod and I recorded my video and I uploaded it to YouTube and I sent it into them. Oh my goodness, it was so stressful.
So you were on true day 1. I was on day 2, day 1.
Sure.
Divided us into 2 groups. So you walk in, you're looking around, everybody's filed in. They're surrounding the couch or sitting on the couch. What's going through your mind? Man,
I swear to you, I came in like I was prepared weeks in advance. I brought my food. I was food prepped up. I had my supplements, my brain supplements especially. I brought like my workout gloves so that I could do push-ups throughout the day. Like I wanted to keep the blood flowing because I came into that day 1 knowing, like I told my family, I told my friends, like, hey, I'm going on a reality show. There is no doubt I am winning this thing. It's going to be so exciting.
That's funny. I remember, I don't remember what day it was, but you were jump roping.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. I just remember hearing you talking about, all right, I'm going to go get in some jump rope. And I was like,
yeah, it was the day of the interviews. I can tell you exactly when that was.
And again, your day 1 was very different than my day 1. But as you looked around the room, did you know the other contestants on your day 1? And if you did, who did you think was the biggest threat to you winning the show?
I swear to you, John, and I know this sounds like braggadocious and everything, but I looked around the room and I just had this confidence of like, no one came here as prepared as me, because I had rewatched season 1, taken notes, came in with a tremendous plan on how to add massive value. I mean, I had gone to the lengths of reaching out and essentially putting verbal contracts, for lack of a better way of saying it, in place for the Higdon group to be working with different people that either knew Ray, knew of Ray, or were even closely connected with Ray.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All for nothing based on what happened in the interview process.
Yeah, right? Because it was nothing like that.
Wait, wait, I came prepared with like a whole lot of other information that you're not even asking me about.
So I'll tell you a funny piece of this. I've got a little more background in TV than what I think most people thought, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
I took a completely different track and paid no attention at all to the first season, because in every reality show, if you try to prepare based on that first season, every time I've ever seen that, they are dreadfully surprised.
Okay.
So I watched just enough to kind of learn who Ray was, because I didn't really know.
Sure.
And that was all I did. And then the rest of my time I spent going through his group, going through his material to see what made Ray tick. Like,
Sure.
And I didn't even know until day 2 or 3, I can't even remember what day it was, that the coaching wasn't available this time around. I still thought we were going for job or coaching. I had no
Sure.
clue. You know? So, without giving anything away,
Yep.
what was your favorite moment on the show?
Favorite moment. It was probably the last day where people had like a purpose. They had to put together a plan and then execute on that plan.
Yeah, that was pretty intense, and the entire crew just really came together. It was pretty awesome to see. Now, what was the most nerve-wracking for you then? I think I already know, but
without question, it was a one-on-one interview.
All right. This is a major theme in the interview. Who were you more intimidated by, Ray or Jessica?
Now you have to understand, I have both of their cell phone numbers.
Yes.
I've spent time with them over the last 3 or 4 years at both of their houses, their old house, their new house, helping them get moved in. Ray has, he's admitted this, so it's no news to anybody, like zero mechanical skills, right? So I've done work on his Tesla. I've installed stuff in his garage for him to work out, like all sorts of stuff. So I've got a really good relationship with these people. I was in tears. Okay, well, I gave it away. I was in tears during the interview because of Jessica Higdon.
Yeah.
And not tears of laughter, like tears of, what the F am I doing here right now?
Yeah, like that has become, I don't know, because Ray doesn't strike me as a softie. Everybody's reaction when they found out they were interviewing with Jessica has been, oh my God. So I just find that absolutely amusing.
For sure.
So, we come out of that reality show, out of the filming of that show, and literally all hell breaks loose in the world. COVID-19 hits, you get put in jail. Well, not real jail, but, for being a Canadian insurgent and crossing the border during COVID, and all this crazy stuff is happening. In hindsight, looking back at the show, what do you think the greatest lesson you learned from actually being on the show was?
Definitely show up and put forth the effort, like regardless of who says what, or like what reality even says. Just put in the effort, follow through, and good things will continue to happen.
Okay, next one's a little more difficult, but you go through, and I mean, like, there was days that were just crazy, like they just were. So you go through all of that stuff on the show that's transpired. What do you think changed the most for you between the end of filming to today because of the show?
Yeah, just hearing of like, so here's something that I've definitely observed over the last 6-7 months since I guess the end of the filming of the show, is that we all, even though we probably don't think it, we all go through every single day with like a million thoughts of, I'm not good enough, like regardless of what's going on in life or what you do for work or what your family life is like so many people just go through every single day second guessing themselves and thinking, what did they think about me? Whether it was the person at the store, the person at the restaurant that took your order, your significant other, whatever. And so like we all have this internal conversation going on constantly. And one of the most eye-opening things to me was seeing person after person after person sitting there on the couch, getting up and telling such like riveting and emotional stories of the crap they've been through or what they've overcome. And just to realize like, wow, that story that goes on in my head goes on in everybody's head. And people have overcome so much.
Yeah, like that is something that I for sure noticed in the show as well, that regardless of how good your life was or how bad it was, there were some really common denominators in everybody's stories.
Yeah.
And you heard from Jen the other day where her husband died, then her mom died, and then she had some other things that she had to overcome. And then you have Ryan running from a 17-year prison sentence. I mean, just over and over and over. And then you have who's on, you have Michelle McKenzie, who has a very successful career, and she's moved all the way from Europe into Canada, which is kind of the same thing, but whatever. And it really struck me how quickly they took a group, 27, I think, right? We had 27.
I believe so.
One person didn't show. So we had 27 people from radically different backgrounds that then are spilling their junk on TV, like in no time. I don't know if that's Ray's fault or Jessica's fault or Hank's fault, or but that's somebody's fault,
Sure. Yeah. That's how I felt in the interview process. I'm like, I mean, I'm answering your questions, but wow, this is being super transparent right now.
Yeah, like I was sharing this on the phone with a buddy of mine this morning. Called me about the show and the upcoming release, and I was like, you could probably say I'm a little emotionally deficient. And in the interview process, they had me in tears in like,
wow,
2 minutes. And I was like, whoa, stop. Hold on. That's not happening. Like, we need a timeout. It was pretty crazy. So I feel that as well, the same as you. So the show's coming up soon, very soon. I think sooner than what most people think. And we have that private Facebook group where we all hang out and bounce ideas off each other and whatnot. And there's been a definite like resurgence of the nerves of being on the show, because everybody realizes here shortly they're going to be wherever they end up putting this show at, right, for the world. How do you feel about it? Where are you at with the release of the show and just your overall performance on the show, those kind of things?
Yeah, it was a great learning experience. I'm so thankful for the opportunities that of not only being on the show, but what we were all going for as a prize. And my life is so radically improved since doing that. And I don't know. It's like Ray tells the story of, he'd gone all these years, 14, 15 years, whatever it was, of not talking to his dad. Yeah. And he's made millions and millions of dollars in real estate. Now he's lost it all. He's drinking himself unconscious on a daily basis. And it's the summer of whatever, 2008, 2009. And he makes that decision to contact his dad and go take his sons, which his dad had never met, up to see him in Indiana. And he forgave his dad. Like, he bridged that gap. He says today, like, they don't have the perfect relationship, but at least they have communication. Yeah. And it was literally within 7 days that he was called from a buddy of his, introduced to network marketing, and it completely changed his life. He became a top income earner, made millions of dollars. He's now a stay-at-home dad with two little kids in addition to his two college age kids. And so that's how it's been for me. I don't know if not having submitted an application, a video, and going on that show, if I would be where I am today. COVID-19 hit, all my businesses blew up in a great way, and my life is literally like it's hard for me to even wrap my head around how amazingly great life is today.
That's awesome. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on and doing this interview with me and kind of promoting the show and your role in the show. And, keep me informed about those Canucks. I definitely am interested to see how they plan on getting that money from you and that nonsense that took place.
For sure.
And now that I know you're in Cincinnati, man, I was just up there a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, man.
I didn't know you were that close. When you said Ohio, when we were talking on the interview, when we were talking travel stuff, I did not realize that that's where you're at, man. I was literally
sure.
So
Huh.
So it's good talking with you. Hang on for just a second as I end the live, and then we'll go from there, buddy.